All right, we are live, hopefully, for the morning check-in. And as always, looking forward to connecting, share my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter, and in particular, the the excitement around gold right now, and yet the very little market activity around silver. And today is supposed to be a silver squeeze, so not quite sure when it begins or how it all plays out. But once again, if you zoom out and look at things from a more global framework, I think the more concerning issue should be Donald Trump's rhetoric over the weekend and how it impacts the world, and not necessarily focusing on a silver squeeze, which once again is all subject to the bullion banks being broken. Which I wouldn't hang my hat on that just yet, because as I've always mentioned before, silver will be the last thing to go, and when it does, game check, set, match, and we in a new world completely. And so I got a lot of thoughts I want to share on that and some more. But let me make sure I'm streaming here. Had a hiccup earlier, but anyway, we're here. So welcome to live stream. For those who are tuned in, definitely let me know your thoughts, ideas, suggestions, what you're keeping your eyes on. Drop them in the chat or in the comment section. And based upon a video I did yesterday in reference to Donald Trump and his rhetoric surrounding a third term, a lot of people, a lot of people was very unhappy with, I guess, my stance and saying that I don't know law and everything else. But once again, what difference does that make when you have the current administration talking about doing something that is not even important right now, because he's not even been in office 70 days? So why are people getting mad at the messenger when I'm just formulating an opinion around something that apparently came from his mouth? So whether it did or didn't, I could care less. It's just concerning that it would even be conceived that he would talk about a third term and not having even been through a second. So I'll leave that to yesterday. So feel free to, comment, hate speech, whatever. I don't care, whatever. But the most important thing is what happened to the silver squeeze. And so I haven't even commented on it. I've read comments, people saying, Mike, what's your thoughts on the silver squeeze? And I'm like, what exactly do you expect to happen when I believe there's phases to this transition period. And of course, I no doubt that there is a genuine desire for the bullion banks to be broken completely and to lose control, but they have been able to capture this system for several hundred years now. To think that people going in and buying mere ounces or whatever type of weight that they are buying will really put that much pressure on the bullion banks when they deal in the global markets. And of course, PSLV and all that shorting activity could definitely impact the price, but pump the brakes. Don't go that far yet. We still got time, in my opinion. I don't expect the price of silver to break to all-time highs no time soon. If it does, great. But if it doesn't, keep moving. But then again, gold is telling us something. It is continuing to climb, and that is a more important measuring stick for the monetary structure surrounding the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar. And so gold is the currency or money of kings and royalty and central banks and all that other stuff, while silver is the people's money. And so we got some time, people. So continue to stack, do what you do, get your weight up. Don't look forward to that day, because when that day comes, as far as silver breaking the banks or silver going to prices that we can't fathom, we're gonna be in a whole different world anyway. And you may not get to enjoy it no matter what. So, okay. So I say all that. Welcome to the live stream. Feel free to drop in some thoughts, ideas, chats, in the chat. Got lots of stuff to touch on. And I'm not quite sure how to begin, but I got a lot of tabs that I want to touch on. And I'm going to start off with this one because I think this is what's currently right now. So as I look at my screen, we have gold, $3,121.94, up $20 within the last couple of hours. And silver, the markets opened up. And as always, they find a way to slam the price, i.e., creating more fictitious paper contracts to dump on the market. Expect that for some time to go, because I believe we will be in a military conflict with Iran before we see silver fly. And that gets into my whole point of what I want to talk about today, because I'm more concerned with the bigger picture rather than the here and now and how it would benefit me if silver goes to all-time high. That's really irrelevant, because I'm talking about 8 billion people and the lives that will be impacted by a global war if we bomb Iran, which Trump said about bombing Iran, take him at his word, rather than my own individual or the community. You guys have been preparing monetarily, financially speaking, by being responsible and stacking real, true, tried and tested sound money. And so 8 billion or a couple thousand, couple hundred, a million, different priorities here. But anyway, so that's just where we're at as of now. But my whole point is, before I get into it, we're going to get into some good news, of course, which is the daily devotional, get into some resources, and then we'll get into headlines and a lot of, news stories that are just things that entertain ourselves. But I think this Iran situation, and I will be willing to go on a limb and say that there's a greater probability that Trump would do something in reference to creating a military conflict to distract the masses to keep pressure off the bullion banks before the bullion banks break and silver goes to all-time highs, and then we go to a conflict. Because in between these transition periods of monetary orders, there always happens to be chaos, and unfortunately, chaos leads to war. War leads to a massive amount of casualties to disguise and to cover up the transition of the monetary system. So I don't think, if people really knew what was at stake here, I don't think people would be so excited for this bullion bank breaking and silver squeeze to go to all-time highs to really play out, because there will be a large amount of casualties as a result of this, because we will go to war. It's not if you want to, it always happens. Every reset occurs with some type of war. And I think this Iran situation from Donald Trump could be a part of it. And so just enjoy what we have, where we're at, and what we're doing now, and give all glory to God. Okay. So with that being the case, let's get into what I want to touch on. First and foremost, get into some good news. Let me start off by giving you some good news, something to hang your hats on, and then we'll jump into some other things. Okay, real quick, get myself over here. This is today's daily devotional, and so I do these so I can encourage my fellow believers, as well as those who are not a part of the family yet, but they're on the way, because at some point we all had to start somewhere, and I hope that you start your day off in the good word, so you can charge yourself up and keep yourself moving. Okay, let's get into this real quick. It says, the power at the right hand. Jesus saith unto him, thou hast said, nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. And this is in reference to Jesus speaking to Pilate in reference to who really has power and what will come after he does what he does, which, of course, he mentions that only is by God giving him the power to do what he's doing. He's going to do what he did. It says Jesus wasn't defending himself. He was declaring his position. The right hand of the power means authority, dominion, and rulership. He was reminding them that though he stood before them in humility, he would soon sit in glory. This is kingdom language. Daniel saw it. Revelation confirms it. Jesus is not waiting to be king. He is king now. And he's not coming back as a lamb. He's coming in the clouds with power. So you're not just saved for my people that are in Christ. You're part of a kingdom now. You are part of the governing body. We are meant to rule and reign with him. And it starts in this life by the presence of his Holy Spirit leading and guiding us into all truth. It says here, so walk in alignment with that power, that authority, and that expectation. The king is seated and he's coming again. Amen and amen. And for those that want to get in on that, feel free as always to leave an amen in the chat or the comment section. Let me know if you're feeling that and if you have been encouraged by that reminder as to what must take place as we roll through this thing called life. Okay. Let's keep it going. So let's get into real quick some resources. Then I'll get into some more of the silver squeeze. And I want to get into the Iran situation because I think that's way more important than any of this monetary, mumbo jumbo, because this stuff will take place, but in due timing. Okay, so one thing I came across that was really concerning, and this plays into the resources that I will continue to make available, is something from the Kobayashi letter. And this just plays into more of what I want people to be mindful of. And so right now, this came out this morning. This is from Kobayashi letter, came out at 8:09 this morning. It got 122,000 people who viewed this. And just all that red on the screen let you know that something's taking place. So whenever there's market concerns, there's always the need for those that are in positions of power to create more of diversions, distractions, and tactics, and not usually leads to wars. But it says here, breaking. S&P futures officially entered correction territory, bringing 4-day market cap losses to 2.7 trillion. It says the NASDAQ 100 is now 5.5% away from entering a bear market. And this is before the market's open. I haven't checked it, but once again, Dow, S&P 500, US Tech, all down. And that definitely should catch a lot of people by surprise. And I mention that because I want to make sure that people, especially those in the community, are aware that you don't have to just do the conventional thing that everybody's been taught and trained to do, which is to buy stocks, buy bonds, sit back, and look to retire, because things are shifting. Clearly, you can see that. So I want to encourage people, if you haven't, colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD, my partners that are helping people diversify outside of the traditional 60-40 model. You have a chance to take a portion of your portfolio and put it into gold and silver via a self-directed IRA. And that is something that I think people should at least consider if you haven't already or already have done such. So I want to continue to remind people, because long as there's air in my lungs and gold and silver still somewhat affordable, you have options, people. So once again, if you're interested, feel free, click the link in the description, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/RTD, call this number, and you'll download this form here, get all the information you need from this PDF here, and then speak with the professionals on how you can take advantage while time still remains to do such. Because at some point, there will come a correction, people, and hopefully you're on the right side, based upon what history has always proven to be tried, true, and tested. And of course, that's sound money, rather. Okay, so with that, I want to move right into the other topics of discussion. And so, silver squeeze. Today is the day of silver squeeze, and a lot of people were excited, hoping that they would get some type of outcome that would break the banks. It's still early, but then again, as I mentioned, don't hold your breath, just because the system, the way it's designed, they've been able to pull off a lot greater things for much longer periods of time than I've been alive. So I'm not sitting up here waiting on something to break before I enjoy my life. And so go about your day, love, live, laugh, stack along the way, because at some point you will be rewarded. But until then, don't focus on these movements that I believe are more distractions than anything. And so here we got present activity. Gold is telling us something. Silver is yet to reveal itself. Be grateful. That's an opportunity to buy. And a lot of the reason why I mentioned and didn't comment on the silver squeeze was because of this. And so this is what really bothered me. When I saw that just a month ago, we were on this audit the Fed, and Elon and Donald Trump were talking about editing the Fed. I'm sorry, editing Fort Knox. And then I made this little graphic here. Psych, we made it look. And then of Trump, sorry, we lied. And so we went from auditing Fort Knox to revealing the truth behind the curtains, opening the curtains to Fort Knox vaults and revealing that there's nothing there, to like weeks later to somebody, I don't know who, the silver squeeze community. And once again, whenever I see these movements, I've been doing this long enough to question every movement, because there's usually something or someone behind it. Very seldomly do people come together like this and it gets mainstream or it gets major traction to become a movement. So when you see a movement, realize there's somebody behind the scenes narrating and trying to what I believe are distractions. And so what better way to divert attention away from auditing the Fort Knox, which is quiet now. Majority of people don't even care. I think that would have been a much more concerning issue to continue to let that trend. But it appears that X squashed that big time. But now we got the silver squeeze. So when I saw the silver squeeze last week, I'm like, who the hell cares about the silver squeeze? Like, I know that silver's not going to break until it's time. And so in between now and then, it's just more, it gives people false hope. Just like I think this whole MAGA movement that Trump is on gives people false hope. Believe me, people, this system is so saturated with filth. And that, there can't be one or two good people coming together trying to or looking to make a difference. But then again, it takes a collective, and they always keep us divided so that we never form a single thought to then run with, because the Fort Knox would have been it. But anyway, so my whole point was with this little visual aid, this was my response. We went from auditing Fort Knox to come get your silver, get ready for the silver squeeze 2.0. And they got people lining up, everybody mother on X posting, oh, I just bought 100 ounces. I just bought 2,000. I just bought. That's great for you. But the price ain't moving because there's more paper contracts than there is the ability to break the banks as of now. And that's my opinion. Okay. But what is important that people should care about, I believe, happens to be surrounding the chatter coming from Donald Trump himself, which I think is more concerning than anything to do with gold or silver. And it has to do with the probability of a military conflict where the U.S. once again is going to be caught up in something. So not only do the U.S. continue to put pressure on the world and our own national interests, but then again, they are hard pressed to make sure Iran will be the next country that will be toppled. And it's good to say Russia and China, they ain't been doing all these military exercises with Iran for nothing. They will have to get involved, I believe. Therefore, we're going to have a much greater conflict than just us bombing Iran, similar to how we did Iraq and been in Syria forever. Now Assad is gone and the like. So Iran, to me, is the last place where once it breaks, I believe we will enter into that military conflict, possibly referenced in the Bible, that will then lead to much greater events that I would prefer to, delay if it was in my powers, but then let his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So let his will be done on my own. So let it do what it do, baby. But I'm just saying, this is what is more concerning to me than a silver squeeze. And hopefully it would be yours as well. So what am I talking about? For those who wasn't paying attention, Trump says there will be bombing if Iran does not make a nuclear deal. So think about this. We got the commander-in-chief of the United States of America threatening another nation, saying that there will be bombing if you don't sign this paper. So imagine, don't that sound dictatorship-like? That's some stuff that you would hear coming from a king, like his word is law. So once again, they got to think about this on the receiving end. If you Iran, knowing that you got some guys behind you, China and Russia, they got more technology than we probably really have, perhaps, maybe not. And so I'll be a little bit more bolder with my stance. And that leads to the next article. Iran has rejected direct negotiations with the U.S. in response to Trump's letter. So here you got perfect ground for more escalation in the Middle East. And Donald Trump ran on the idea of no war. Let's just get back to taking care of American business, making America great again. So once again, how does Iran and all this nuclear stuff really threaten us directly? But it does threaten Israel. And we know Israel is basically, that's really our leadership in a sense. Congress is fake, in my opinion, and everything else. So I can go on, but I'm not. But you get my drift. So these are things that I think should be on the forefront of our discussions, because these are things to pray for, people. For my saints to love to pray. This is what we should be praying for, because if this escalates, nobody will care what silver or gold talking about, because it's going to impact our day-to-day lives in more than one way. That's just my thoughts. But let's just find out a little bit what was said in this article, and then we'll keep it moving, because once again, the Western media will spin this as like, you better believe the Western media and the bipartisanship that will come from stuff like this lets you know who they're getting orders from. We can only have bipartisanship when it's something that benefits other nations first, rather than the American people who comes in last all the time. And people still think that their vote counts. Anyway, real quick, let's jump into this real quick. Let's get into it. It says U.S. president on Sunday. So as of yesterday, amongst all this other stuff. So it just, put my tinfoil hat on. I got my tinfoil hat over there. I usually put my tinfoil hat on and go to La La Land. I'm thinking, like, what better time for this administration to verbally come out with all this rhetoric, head into the week of Monday, on top of the tariffs and the levies and all the other stuff that he about to tax every country, he said, and all types of stuff I'm about to talk about in a minute. So what better way to do all this than to come out on Sunday to even escalate tensions? We going to war. You know what I'm saying? We going to bomb you if you don't agree to sign this paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's doing too much too fast to destabilize the world. And you think this is accidental? No, this is intentional. And of course, I'm sure I haven't looked. Let me check real quick. I'm sure the markets, let me see if we open up in the green or the red. So as of right now, if I just take a quick glance, the magnificent or the horrible 7, magnificent, the horrible 10, whatever you want to call it, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Google, they all in the red. Apple's doing good. I guess people are buying smartphones right now. But once again, market conditions ain't the greatest. But then again, we know gold is telling us a different story. Okay. So let me just get through all this because I got so much I can say, but I'll let you guys chime in via the chat or comments. But real quick here, it says in a television interview in NBC News, Trump said the U.S. and Iranian officials were talking but did not elaborate. And then it quotes him as saying, if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. So imagine a president of the most powerful country in the world supposedly saying, you agree to our terms and you sign this paper or we gonna drop something on you. So you think they're gonna we gotta let me get a pen, we gotta sign this. No, you know what I'm saying? This is, Trump said, but there's a chance that if they don't make a deal, that I will do secondary tariffs on them like I did 4 years ago. And then it goes on and says in 2017-21, Trump withdrew the U.S. from 2015 deal with Iran and which, we know the Obamas and all those guys gave him cash and all that stuff like that. Powers that place strict limits on Tehran's disputed nuclear activities in exchange for sanction relief. Trump also reimposed sweeping U.S. sanctions since the Islamic Republic has far surpassed agreed limits in its escalating program of uranium enrichment. Tehran has so far rebuffed Trump's warning to make a deal or face military consequences. And so that leads us to Iran sent a response through Oman to Trump's letter in which he urged Tehran to reach a nuclear deal. Iranian officials was cited as saying by Western powers accuse Iran of having an clandestine agenda to develop nuclear weapons capability by enriching uranium to a high level of fissile purity above what they say is justifiable, whatever. Okay, so once again, when I say we, the United States of America is basically telling Iran, you're not allowed to enrich uranium. You can't have it because you're going to do something bad with it. Once again, not sure how we get a chance to tell the world what they can and can't do, but that's just the position we've always had. So Iran has rejected direct negotiations with the U.S. in response to Trump's letter. And so that's a good way of saying that, we're not going to sign your piece of paper. And so Iran's president on Sunday said that the Islamic rejected direct negotiations that the United States over its rapidly advancing nuclear program, offering Tehran's first response to a letter that U.S. Donald Trump sent to the country's supreme leader. It says President Mossad said that the Iranian response delivered via the Sultanate of Oman left open possibility of indirect negotiations with Washington. However, such talks have made no progress since Trump is in his first term unilaterally withdrew the U.S. from whatever. Okay. And so here we are. Trump threatened dropping bombs. Once again, we know how he talks. You can either dismiss it or you can take it serious. But me, knowing that war is what they want, I would assume that he is more likely to do this because it's not about American interests per se. It's that nuclear enrichment that would lead to them having the capabilities of bombing Israel. So everything that we face as a nation is centered around the nation state of Israel because that piece of real estate, i.e. Jerusalem, is the most important real estate on this planet. And so we as a nation have been captured by the powers that be. There's special forces working through the U.S., and it comes in a variety of forms, fashions, and things of that nature. But just to let you guys know that there's a greater probability that we will bomb Iran on behalf of Israel than there will be the chance of silver breaking and going to all-time highs, and then the people who hold gold and silver living happily ever after and, dismissing all the other concerns that impact 8 billion people. You know what I'm saying? That's just my 2 cents. And now that I'm ranting a little bit, I'll get to some more headlines, but I want to just paint a picture as to how bad the systemic financial corruption is when it comes to silver and everything else. So let's just look at the debt clock, and we can look at all the paper stuff that highlights how they've been able to get away with this for so long. And all of a sudden now people think that this is the time that it's really going to work. They're going to break the bullion banks, and we're going to go from there. And so here we have the dollar to silver ratio now. So the amount of dollars in the amount of Federal Reserve units in circulation compared to the amount of reported silver that are in vaults or that come out of the ground, it says $1,102. So let me zoom in. $1,102 per ounce. And you go back to 1913, before the Federal Reserve captured the monetary structure, it was $2.69. Then we got the dollar to gold ratio now, 8,531 per ounce. Based upon these facts, these statistics given to us here, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably the M2 compared to the reported gold by the World Gold Council that gives us 8,531. And then you got the most important thing, the paper to silver ratio now. So how many pieces of paper, how many ounces within a piece of paper, one of futures contracts, to an actual one tangible ounce of silver. And it's 377 fake ounces to one physical ounce. And this is the part that everyone's hoping eventually breaks to where we can get to that realization of the ratio. And my man Chris Dwayne does a good job of sharing his silver passion. And he's saying it should be 1-to-1. Gold and silver should be 1-to-1. And if you took that at today's value of gold to silver being 1-to-1, we will be looking at a $300 ounce. $300, it'll be $333.94 if it was 1-to-1 at this current price, which we know is fake. This is fake compared to the amount of units, compared to these amount of units in circulation. And that's where I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't hold my breath thinking that we will actually get to see the day where gold and silver goes to just to the moon without there being some type of societal breakdown, i.e. war and all that type of stuff, because you got to realize what is at stake. It's every nation's fiat Ponzi scheme that stands to crumble. And I just find it hard to believe that the governments would deliberately allow this to happen to where they would lose control and lose power. And then the people who are in control of them would lose control, so that the daisy chain goes upward to a very small few at the top of this Ponzi pyramid. And then governments are at the bottom. They're just the front men, front women. They take orders and we take orders from our government. And that's not even the way the republic was supposed to be, but that's the way it's become. So someone says, please keep your hands still. Donna, it's hard to keep my hands still because I make my points with my hands. So I can't sit here and just make my points with emotion and passion the way that I feel that I have for this subject matter without using my hands. So bear with me. Just listen to the audio. But no, Drea, appreciate you on that words of encouragement as well. So, but once again, there's more stories here. And I could just real quickly just thumb through some headlines. But as always, there's more subject matters that I can get to than we would actually be able to navigate. So that's why, as always, for those who want more of these type of stories, that's why I put together the RTD News page. So click the link in the description, go to rtd.news, and you can see all these articles that I will not have time to get to. But real quick here, let me just give you a couple more headlines. It says gold rises above 3,100 for the first time as U.S. levies boost havens. So let's see what this was about. Let me click on this real quick, and then we'll go through a couple other things. And these are just subjects that caught my attention. So it's good to say there's a whole lot more that I am not even aware of. So let's just see. Looks like, let me green on the screen here. Give me a second. Okay, yeah. So it looks like it's what's his name? Iranian. Gold signaling international dollar issues. That's what Mr. Ron is saying right now. And so the Federal Reserve note is in trouble, people. So you better believe Donald Trump is not going to let this get out of hand without him dropping bombs. Gold started the week with a fresh record high ahead of President Donald Trump's expected latest tariff barrage that's heightened concerns of global trade war. It says bullion gained 1.4% to 1,127, 3,000, beating the previous peak from Friday when it recorded a fourth weekly gain. It says Trump last week signed a proclamation to slap a 25% tariff on auto imports, while traders also braced for a White House so-called reciprocal tariffs due on Wednesday. Gold is up 19% this year in a run that sees it clinch at least 15 all-time highs. Several major banks have raised the price targets for the precious metal. Goldman Sachs this month ramping up to 3,300. Spot gold is 3,100. So we're going to have a lot more fireworks in gold, well higher and farther than what we're going to see in silver. And while all this is happening, the chosen child by the banking cartel, it happens to be Bitcoin. It is not really moving much, even though Michael Saylor just went out and bought 22,000. He just bought 22,000 Bitcoin by borrowing and then buying Bitcoin. And so Peter Schiff right now on X is just having a field day with the performance of gold compared to Bitcoin. All right, what else we got here? A couple other articles here, and then we're going to get it going. But once again, keep an eye on the rhetoric out of the probability of war before you see the silver price take off. It says Trump and the Fed are on a collision course. Oh, really? They're going to for the Fed will have to respond by cutting rates. Then the market's going to fly. Gold and silver are going to take off because that will be an international sign that the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar, is trash. In the latest blow to European democracy, Judge rules Marine Le Pen ineligible to run for president. The rise of intercontinental energy grids. Trump administration gives all clear to laundering money through shell companies and bribing foreign officials. Wow. Europe pushing for World War III ASAP. Yeah, that's another thing. Not only is this whole rhetoric between Trump and Iran picking up, Europe and all the issues they're having, no doubt that they're also itching for a war because there are several countries within Europe that's already in a recession, and it can only get worse for them. So, yeah, the probability of a false flag happening to trigger some type of response is very high. Goldman Sachs lifts U.S. recession probabilities to 35%. Oh, really? What else we got? The cheapest and most expensive countries to visit. The U.S. is losing the contest to divide the world. Okay, so you guys get the drift here. Lots of interesting articles there for those who want them. Read rtd.news, links in the description. But once again, just coming together, sharing my 2 cents. Hopefully, at some point there is a silver squeeze, but I don't think you want it the way that if you knew what would come after it, you know what I'm saying? I think you'll be willing to be patient a little bit longer. Get your weight up, stack, have fun, enjoy, go on vacation, go sit by the beach, have a Mai Tai with your family, chill. Before we get to the bigger issue, which could be military conflict, which Trump is hard-pressed to do. He's going to do it because he's been given orders to do it. So it's not like it's a matter of if, it's just when. So everything is being constructed the way that they, whoever they are, would like for it to unfold. So in the meantime, love, live, laugh, learn, and just be a part of be the change you want to see in the world. And of course, that comes with giving people a much more important subject matter, which happens to be surrounding the good news and the importance of faith in Yeshua himself directly. All right, good people. Be blessed, be safe. Shalom.